I'll try to do this. I'll try to stay on script here. This is from a book called Erase the Ego, so before you come rushing up and asking me, I'll just give you the title now. Everyone's hoping for something that will work. So, and you know, the ego, the way he uses the word ego, let's call it selfing, yeah? So he goes, the selfing is merely a ghost with no form of its own, but feeding on any form it holds. That's the whole idea of the parasitical nature, yes, of the mental state. It has no form of its own. It claims to have the body as itself, yeah? But feeding on any form it holds. You see? Very much like a parasite, yeah? Which when sought for takes to flight. Since with the rise of the self, all else rises, and with its subsistence, all else subsides. To destroy the self through self-inquiry is alone true renunciation. So what we're sharing here isn't sort of on the line of self-inquiry, but it actually is, because we're looking at just keep seeing what you're not, and inevitably the sense of what you are will dawn on you, yeah? So if you keep seeing whatever is being presented as you, the activities, the selfing, if you keep seeing it, sooner or later, the seeing, not as if you're doing the seeing, but the seeing itself will dawn on you. And then you'll realize what you are by seeing what you're not. It's sort of a similar way, but he's using the word, the way of who am I? Asking yourself a subjective question to confront the subjectiveness that isn't a subject, yeah? So, and then by following it back to its source, you come to what you are. What we're doing, in a sense, is just seeing what we're not, and in the seeing of what we're not, you can come to the talks, and then we describe it and everything like that. So now you can see that which used to imply you, yeah? You'll see all the pointing, but you'll realize there is no moon. There's just pointing. That you are what it's pointing at, trying to convince, in a sense. But not you as of the body. That's after it's convinced you. Yeah? The sense of being a body is after it's convinced what we are. That's what gives life to the body, is mind gets convinced that it's a body, and therefore that becomes a new starting point, and then we live life based on an interpretation that we're a body. Yeah. But what would happen if you saw all that that goes into play to sort of imagine, imply, insinuate, assume that presence of a body, yeah? Because there is no body, there is no one, but there's constantly an implying there's a one, or a presupposing there's a one, and the one finds traction in the story by the body identification, yeah? Because as a body, we look singular. I don't look like Chris. Chris doesn't look like me, thank God for Chris, and everyone like that. So there's this sense of difference that in our perceptual world we'll constantly reaffirm, because we'll just look at someone else and see it as other, yeah? So the whole idea is if you could see what you're not, which is the seeing of what you're not is just seeing activities, yeah? You see the selfing in all its lovely little splendor. You see its mind of remembering itself called memories. You see the perceptual demonstration that all these I see are things, like the Course would say. Your vision is totally independent than the eyes that behold the world. What is it implying? They're all of it's attempting to point to us, but not as a thing, yeah? By doing what? Not by talking about the all brilliant this or that, but negating the oneness. That's all. Negating that which we take ourselves to be, because basically that's all that's necessary. If you see what you're not, that's the seeing, you're the seeing of what you're not. Yeah? You're the seeing of what you're not. That's it. And after a while, then as soon as there's a recognition, then all that's implying and insinuating and assuming and presupposing, you'll see you're not that which they're implying, presupposing, insinuating. And if you're not that which you take yourself to be, you'll find out what you are, which is what? Find out. Yeah. That's what the invitation does. The invitation doesn't introduce you to your soulmate. It introduces you to what you are. Yeah. It introduces you to what you are. And then that gets established finally, and because it's already established. That's the beautiful news. It looks like it gets established only from the point of view from us. But so in this story from here, it says, oh, it finally got established. The truth got established in my life. But the truth has always been established in our lives. That's the good news. Because all the hanky-panky, all the mental gymnastics have never changed a fucking thing in no thing. It's always been available. It always is available right now, at all times, right where you ever think you are, with no requirement necessary to meet it. So Ramana's thing is you keep asking, because whatever you think you are, if that gets questioned, if you go back a little farther, all roads inevitably lead to Rome, to being, because everything is issued forth from being. There is no mother and father of this whole world but being. Yeah. So if that which is presented as the Alpha and the Omega is questioned, and then the Alpha is seen through, then what happens? There's an expansion in possibility. And what happens in that expansion of possibility is I am that. Yeah. But the I am that is never arrived at by looking for the I am that. It's by negating the phantom. That's it. So it's through negation that you arrive at I am that. It's not by looking for I am that, because St. Francis said very clearly, what's looking is what you're looking for. So it's just like the same thing. If you're applying, or if the mental state's applying what's looking to look for what's looking, it could go on for fucking ever. Because what you're looking for is what's looking. That should put an end to it. Yeah, I mean, it's such an abrupt. Can you imagine if there was 12 more chapters after that statement? It would be like beating a dead horse. It's what's looking is what you're looking for. End of invitation. Same thing with the Buddha. You can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. So if there's a drive to seek Buddhahood, there must be, under the surface of conscious contact now, or whatever, the mental state, there must be an active denial of being the Buddha. Because there's no way the Buddha would ever search for the Buddha as the Buddha. It could only be the Buddha taking itself to be something else to search for itself. And I would say that's the dilemma we seem to be in. It's appearing to be true only when we're true. As long as this is true, it can appear to be true. When this isn't true, it doesn't appear to be true anymore. And then suddenly the Buddha sees what's implying to be the Buddha, because there's no Buddha it's making, it can't, but all the implying that you're a Buddha as a thing, when the Buddha sees the false Buddha, the looking for the Buddha usually ceases. Because it would be absurd for the Buddha to look for the Buddha when it's being the Buddha. Even while looking for the Buddha, it's still being the Buddha, and that's our condition, right? Being awake hasn't been altered or changed one iota by thinking we're asleep. The awakeness is still available. It's still the base of our day. The consciousness hasn't gone to sleep. If it had, there'd be no day for us. Yeah? We can think we're asleep or awake, but the consciousness is just like constantly on. Because how could it not be on? It's not doing consciousness where it was something else and could stop doing consciousness. It is consciousness. So how is consciousness being? It's being conscious. I would say we're incessantly being conscious, aren't we? Unfortunately, a lot of what we're conscious of are our body conditions, the thoughts about the body conditions, and so we're hyper-conscious of all that, and by being conscious of all that in an ignorant manner, in other words, taking yourself to be the one, that's something, yeah? In that condition, we can seem to be asleep. It can appear to be true to us as the truth that we're asleep. In that condition, it would make total sense to start looking for the truth, because you'd like to wake up. But if you're the truth already, looking for it would actually lengthen the absurd belief that you were asleep. And he's warned it so many times. In all of Ramana's teachings, he says, hey, if your spiritual practices themselves are reinforcing the idea of being asleep, or reinforcing a non-existent thing, which is the idea of being asleep, yeah? If all of them are reinforcing that, how could they destroy it? It's like a message to cigarette users. Instead of just having one warning, there's 4 warnings on the pack. So you look at one, all right, the presupposing a non-existent thing. And then your practices or your puffing themselves is going to reinforce the idea that you're a smoker. Up, and then another one. What's looking is what you're looking for. Up, and another fucking one. The seeker is a sort. By the time, if you buy another pack, forget it. You're seemingly hopeless. You've gotten all the warnings. How many more do you need? Seriously, there should be a stopping, at least for a little bit of time, and let what comes after that, those warnings are entertained, let it hit you finally, and see, all right, wait a minute. Because that's what happened with me. There's all this activity. I heard these little statements, which were more like templates, really. There's sort of like a giant crane came to like the historical narration of my life as a spiritual seeker for the last 8 years, and this template went over it, and went like this, it went over it, and suddenly all of that shrunk up and fell right below the template. The presupposing of a non-existent thing, wanting to get salvation for the non-existent thing. And then in addition, another template came by for the opposite side, which is, and you know, Paul, your practices themselves are reinforcing the non-existent thing. How could they destroy it? That was the end of the story. I didn't need, let me take 10 more years of my life and see if it fits. No, it explained everything. I don't need more years of explanation aren't going to do. You can get it with one shot. Yeah, just let the mind expand on what it hears. Don't let every sentence have a period. Just let it go off, because the sentence, it's an invitation. Those beautiful cryptic statements are an invitation for what? For entertaining. You hear it and then you entertain. And that's that. The wonder isn't produced by the sentence, it's produced by what heard the sentence. Yeah? If it doesn't go to the mental, if it goes through the mental like mail slot, but gets up to bigger mind, then the mind will start looking at the activities of you as something foreign, and finally, in its all ever-present brilliantness, an idea will show up, which is, I can be free from it. Because it's been trying to be free as it for 40, 50 years. It's been trying to book flights to Nirvana, but always including this carry-on called Paul. It always gets stopped at customs, and you can't take that in. But then I go back, I wear, and I get a different bag, and this time and it doesn't get through. And then I get a more spiritual bag. No, they don't let it in. I get sent back, seemingly. It's much easier to put the bag down if it ain't your bag. It's much easier to have relief from thoughts if you get relief from the thinker. That's where the whole relief from thoughts is. It's not in every thought, learning by skillful means how to lessen the effect of a thought. Just see are you the thinker of them? And just look at what would happen if you had someone else's thoughts in your head and it clearly said they were someone else's. You would pay absolutely no attention to them if you didn't like that person. You wouldn't. You would turn it off in 10 seconds. It would keep playing, but there'd be no interest in it. What's the producer of the interest in the thoughts? It's not the thoughts. Have you had them? You seem to. I mean, they're the most recyclable shit in this place. The thoughts just get recycled. You're a loser. All right. Circa 1999. All right. Let's hear the loop. All right. You're a loser. Circa 2010. Let's hear the loop. You're a loser. 2016. Let's hear the loop. All right. You're never gonna get well. All right. Loops. All right. Never gonna. Now you have old age coming too. Okay. So now you're more. Wow. It's more true. You want relief? See, just question that fucking Golden Gate Bridge of my. Just question it. Stop painting it all fucking day. Just let it collapse. The elements will erode it. Just by your living will erode it. Because if you listen to enough people, you'll see they seem to have your thoughts. They just have different nouns. You know what I mean? They're being driven crazy by Deb, and then someone else being driven crazy by Steve, but it's the same being driven crazy. Like 80 different, basically 12 themes of being driven crazy that can go on infinitum by different nouns, you know. I'm driven crazy by Steve. That's totally different than getting driven crazy by Mary. No, it isn't. The fucking same thing is playing all day. You're being driven crazy. Getting crazy at work. Then you go to vacation. Then you get crazy in vacation. Then it's the traffic to the vacation. It's on and on. You think it's so unique because the nouns change. You think it's totally different if it's happening to Christine, but the same thoughts, yeah? If they're held as happening to Paul, in Paul's little world, can have a cataclysmic effect. How could that be? If I see them as Christine's, they have no effect on me, but I see the same thoughts as mine, they can have a huge effect. Get it? You know? The observation is the observed is distorted by the observation. We're the observation. We're distorting everything we see. We're giving everything all the meaning it has. Could you imagine if that possibility was going through a very small lens called, with Paul, the color of Paul on the lens, called self-centeredness? You would see as life is happening to me all freaking day. You wouldn't even notice. It would just be the direction of how you perceived life. All day, every day, year after year. Life is happening to me. So the thoughts are just thoughts unless they're mine. Feelings are just feelings unless they're mine. And they're not yours. That's the good news. If they were yours and then you'd have to deny them and, destroy them, they're not yours. That's the whole point. That's why negation, quote unquote, is the only way, because you're basically negating nothing. If you try to affirm something to get out of nothing, it won't work. You just got to question the something and you'll see it's nothing. And then there's no drive to get out of it anymore. Yeah? Who the hell would buy ladders and ropes to get out of an imaginary place? Nobody. It's seeing what you're not is the freedom. Yeah? Because that's what you're looking for. That's looking right now is what you're looking for. It's just been given a different name and a different thing, and then it's given other names and everything like that. So we're in the midst of complete what's looking, and we can't even sense it because we're busily looking at from an idea of being a who. We're looking for what as a who while we're what. And it goes on and on and on in time. It takes so many different curlicues and mutations, but it's basically the same theme. Yeah. The way we look at affirmations, they're actually reinforcements of the imaginary state. As soon as we want to get out of somewhere, it works geographically. You may be in a terrible place and you want to get out of there. But in the mental terrain, it's all made up. You've never been in any of the states it constantly tells you you're in. You've never actually been in it. They've been passing across your consciousness. Consciousness has not been in it. Or it wouldn't be able to see it. It'd be looking from it. Why is it that some writers can describe depression, which is a dark, confusing, very, very danky type of place, with perfect clarity? Because the clarity of mind isn't in depression. It's seeing depression. It's never been in anything. All it is the seeing of everything. So here, I don't know what to do now. We'll go to Chibo's. Yeah. I mean, as the road goes down, the talks are going to be shorter and shorter. It's going to be basically hi and then bye. So this is the old famous one. There is no greater mystery than this, that being the reality ourselves, we seek to gain reality. We think, and this is the whole key, none of this is impossible. It's impossible without thinking. Everything comes after thinking. It's we think we're fucked up. We think this. It's always think. Yeah? So there is no greater mystery than this, that being the reality ourselves, we seek to gain reality. We think that there is something binding our reality. And that's the only way we could have any possible entertaining that there's something that's hiding our reality, is by thinking. See, it's the thinking that seems to hide the reality, not the thinking about what's hiding the reality. It's the thinking that hides the reality. The thinking itself. We think seemingly. It can't. That's the beautiful news. But it can sure seem to, especially if the thoughts are held as yours. If you believe you're the thinker of the thoughts, you've added about 4 inches of dense fabric in there. It's a fucking pretty opaque curtain. We think that there is something binding our reality, hiding actually, and that it must be destroyed before the reality is gained. Isn't that the premise of most things? Yes? Isn't that the little lure or the bait that we always bite? That there's something, we don't realize it's us, but there's something between me and the reality I want to realize. Yeah, but we don't realize it's the me itself. There's nothing else. The me just spawns more somethings that seem to be getting in its way to realize the reality. But it's the me. It's only the sense of me that all those barnacles can affix on. Yeah, it's the imaginary hole on our spiritual journey that the barnacles of obstacles fucking hook on. We don't want to give up the hole, you're going to have barnacles. Give up the hole, the barnacles have no place to root. We think that there is something binding our reality and that it must be destroyed before the reality is gained. It sounds like the beginning of a Star Wars movie, right? Something is binding our reality, and that it must be destroyed. And of course, there's only going to be one person who destroys it. And there'll be one. No, it doesn't work that way. There's only one person. The whole world's going to go completely apart, except one person can save it. The importance of being one person is so profound that it's the only thing that can save this whole fucking place. It couldn't be 100 people. It has to be one, and maybe pretty good looking, either a guy or woman, and very fit, and then wearing like very tight shit and having to do gymnastics and fucking kung fu. Okay. That's right. Oh, of course you're not. That's why you pay to see it. You wouldn't pay to see a movie of anyone here, or me either. But a special me that can leap over mountains. It is ridiculous. Yes, it's true. We think that there is something binding our reality and that it must be destroyed before the reality is gained. Wouldn't this be beautiful if you were sitting in the bliss of a beautiful master, and then he gets his point and he just goes, it is fucking ridiculous. I mean, I would imagine it is ridiculous is a pretty strong word from Ramana. Let's add fucking ridiculous if he came from the streets. It is fucking ridiculous. A day will dawn when we will. How about now, eh? It's dawned already. Let's catch up to the dawning of the day. A day will dawn. Hey, Saturday, Marin City, when we will ourselves laugh at our efforts. That which is on the day of laughter is also now. This whole message is just for us. Like we always say, this message is actually directed to Big M Mind, and the message is about a you. So that he can realize, hey, maybe I'm not that, you know? It's not up to you about mind, because, man, you will abort the fucking message, you'll neuter it zillions of times. As soon as you go home and think about it, it will be dead. It'll be a stillbirth. It'll be a dead. Yeah? You'll think you'll have it, but it's dead. It won't let you, you won't be traveling lighter. You just think, I should be traveling lighter. And so if I'm going to travel lighter, I got to control my whole environment. And there'll be more selfing will arise. If you're not the thinker, man, the thoughts are easier to see. You won't be looking for them. Yes? If you're not the feeler, I'm not saying there are feelings for sure. There's feelings generating right now with actually no effort on your part. They're just happening. Yeah. So the idea of throwing in this sense of proprietoriness, you have to see it's got a different agenda than what you may imagine. It's how the mental state keeps the binding in place. Because the binding or the gluing could never hold. It can't hold. No thing and thing cannot be bound. Yeah? From no thing's view, there is no thing. From thing's view, there is no thing. Yeah? So the mental state has to constantly reinforce its story. Just like it said, it has to take hold of the form and just use it to convince mind that it's a body. All day. It's its main job. 24 hours a day. And if you have dreams at night, you're usually dreaming in bodies, aren't you? It's just mental state. You're pictured as a body in the dreams. When you're thought about, you're pictured as a body. You have to see the whole apparatus is self-centered. As it says in the Course, the brain interprets to the body. That's its job here. Its job, it's like a propaganda kaleidoscope. Yeah? Undifferentiated light moves through it, it differentiates, and then we tell a story from the differentiation. And we call everything that's just activities ours. How could thoughts be mine if everyone has them? Yeah? How could feelings be mine if everyone has feelings? I mean, anything I've ever done, the most heinous thing, has been done. Someone else has done it. Yeah. This idea of that something that seems to be public domain, thoughts and feelings and actions, suddenly by everyone involved in this little trance is taken to be our own private Idahos, so to speak. So I have my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own actions, and of course there's a huge barrier that no one possibly can ever understand me. Who would want to? You're fucking totally insane. And what does it say in the Course? It says, what can a system like this, what can a failed system show you? It's failed. That's its whole point. That's why saviors are always going to fail you. That's their service. So that you'll be left with your own devices, and maybe, just maybe, you'll give up the fucking ghost. And things then suddenly become incredibly clearer with no thought or effort on your part. You start traveling lighter with no fucking master plan to do it. Yeah? Things that you thought were definitely things that would have to go for you to be okay are totally there while you're okay. Yeah? Tons of your quote-unquote defective character that had been ordained for years as being some of the obstacles for me to get purified enough to receive this incredible... No, they're sticking out like sore thumbs like they always have, and you're fucking totally available and present. You see, all the considerations and requirements were always on the other side. What's looking has never had any requirements. It's obviously open source. It's available to all at all times, right where you are, with no requirement necessary. Now, how do you let that have more influence? Not by beckoning it, just by questioning the facilities that produce this sense of a curtain between you and you. If you see them as not being so, that there's no one behind the curtain, you'll stop staring at the fucking curtain all day. And now your interest and attention will be dispersed and directed by some other modality other than self-centeredness. Yeah? And you'll look like you're losing a lot of interest, but it isn't the case. Your interest is now resting in the presence. It's not being sent on a chore all day looking for something that you are already. If you would lose interest in tons of fucking things like thoughts and feelings, your interest would be interested, meaning it would be attending this sense of presence. That's it. The presence is just stalled attention and interest. Instead of the interest and attention constantly being directed and driven from self-centeredness, it's relieved of that slavery, and then it just rests, like hovers. Like a morning fog in Santa Cruz. It just hovers. And then you start sensing a presence. What do you think the presence is? A thing? It's us. It's when the mental state isn't driving the interest of attention like a herd of cows to the fucking mythical trough that's going to make it finally great. When then the herd has no point and focus, it just lays down. And now that interest is really the sense of presence. It's not being sent around the corner every half hour to get something fucking for you. Yeah? It's now resting in space. It's idling. It's not driven. There's no gearbox on it anymore. It's just, and then when something arises, there's interest for it. And then it dissipates, there's no interest for it. Yeah? It doesn't produce... The mental narration of what happens doesn't capture it anymore. It doesn't go off on, what did that mean? That person saying hello to me today, and going off into all these fucking mental labyrinths based on a need to have someone else's fucking approval. It's like an insane inmate trying to get approval from another insane inmate. You're all in the asylum. Yeah? When that happens, so you're interested in something, the something moves. Your interest is hovering, space, presence, and something else shows up. It never goes, it doesn't go off on the trail of yesterday and tomorrow anymore. It's never sent, it doesn't go on that hunt anymore. It doesn't go on hunt. Let me extract a lot of meaning about what happened today from the past. It doesn't go, nope. It just stays, right? Just hovers. And the interest and attention becomes interested and attentive to its own source, which is not a thing. You're not that which is interested. You're not. Interest is not of thingness. Yeah, and it's what it feels like. That's what presence is. Its presence is your attentive awareness, yeah, and interest. If your interest is into selfing, then whatever comes along, you'll be supremely interested in that, and in the constant movement of the interest, you won't get the sense of its presence, sense of its what it is, yeah? Because the mental state will be using it like a pack mule, you know? Look at this fucking pornography, whatever. We're constantly, the interest tension's constantly being sent on wild goose chases that the idea is, oh, I'd love to have that, but the having of it makes it even more fucking empty. Yeah? So then more interest goes out and out and out and out. And then you seem to be displaced. That's why your life doesn't feel fucking that great, because there's none of you there, seemingly. You've been auctioned off to things all day. This thing, everything else. It's sort of like taking back what you've never lost. But that's what it's sort of like in the mental gymnastics. You take it back, and where is it? It's through the weakening of the my. Because as we have that little statement in the book about when a guy is making an insane decision to go back out, it starts like this. A thought occurred to me, and that's what's happening all day. Thoughts are occurring, but then they're held as to me, as the thinker, and there's the binding, the seeming binding. And then all day we're trying to get a little bit of relief from that knot. By what? Thinking more. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful invitation. It really is. Over time, I'm more enamored of it than ever. Because for some weird thing, something spun, something that my mental state could never comprehend. The logic of it is unbelievably beautiful. It just produces a reflection of itself in itself. It's just gorgeous, really. Just mind-boggled of what can show up here through us. Yeah. So, yes. Oh, I didn't record this again. I'm having trouble. I got to work on this.